Hey guys, you're listening to Vol. This is going to be a bat rep between YuJing and PanOceania, the eternal rivals of infiNity. This particular game is going to be special in the sense that it will be played on a custom mission designed by our friend Phil, who plays Aleph. You see many of my games against his Aleph army on my YouTube channel. The mission is called Control and Erase, and the idea behind it is that you have three consoles out in the middle of the table, and as soon as you pass the whip check to press the button on the console, it is removed from the table. So the first person to get the console gets it permanently. Then there are three large sections throughout the middle of the table, not in the same quadrant control style where there's four of them, but just 3 blocks through the center line. And at the end of the game, if you control more of them, you get a bonus point, and you get a point for every one you control. So that's what it's generally about, plus there's 2 classifieds. So if we look at the table that I've set up for this particular game, and draw a diagram of that, let's see how it looks. So I'm playing as YuJing for this game, and I'm on the right-hand side of the table, and I've picked deployment zone. I'm taking second turn. So I've got the letters run the wrong way. So that's YuJing, YJ, and then PanOceania down here, of course. So their deployment zone sort of around along like this. Okay. So there are 3 objectives in the center, and the idea is that the person who's going first can just walk up and grab them and press the button, and they're removed. You get a point for every one that you grab, and you get an additional point if you end the game having grabbed more of them. And then after that, there's a further sort of section cut out through the center line, I think 8 inches on either side of the zones, and they're just split up like this. So if I get another color, like maybe pink like this, there's a zone here, and a zone here. And you get 1 point for every zone you control, plus a bonus point if you control more of them than your opponent. Now, like I said, this one was designed by a friend of ours, and after we showed up to play it, we realized, well, in fact, before we started the game, we realized that this version of the scenario, not particularly well designed, because the player going first could use smoke grenades and infiltrating specialists to just grab the consoles just right off the bat, and you're already on a 4-0 lead from doing that. And your opponent can never get more than 6 objective points, which is pretty bad in an ITS situation where, just by getting the wrong turn, you can't get more than a 6-0 lead. And in fact, you can't win by more than a 6-4, which will stop you from getting the maximum number of tournament points. So we edited the scenario in the following way. We decided to customize it further to say that when you are going for the objectives, you've got to press the button once to control it, just like you'd normally do in Comm Center or any other mission like Tic-Tac-Toe or whatever it may be. That means you put a faction marker next to it and you control it. And then only after that can you press that button a second time to erase it and remove it from the table. And you can only erase an objective once you've captured it initially. Furthermore, you can only do that second round of button pressing, the erasing of the objective, from the second game round onwards, which means that person who's going second at least has an initial first turn to try and set up some defenses against that push. Otherwise, the rest of the scenario is still the same. I still think it needs a bit of work, but again, I didn't design this scenario. It's a friend of mine who designed it. We're just playtesting it for him. My mission tactical window you can find on Google Drive, which is already a pretty well playtested mission, and it's going pretty well. Okay, so my opponent here is deploying some troops. He's playing a limited insertion Pano trooper list, and he's got a war corps because he's running Joan of Arc, converts the irregular into a regular. Engineer because he's also running a Tiggerbelang. This model up here looks like a NIS sniper, but he's short on points, so he decided to go for the Kamau sniper, very similar sniper, but not as good as the NIS. Around the other side, we've got a regular mine layer and Joan herself. So just looking at the middle of the field to illustrate that, we just showed you the war corps and the engineer and the tag and the Kamau here, and then you've got Joan of Arc right here, and a Contomesso mine layer. This is his mine here, sneakily laid out in front of him like that. Elsewhere on his side of the field, he's got a Fusilier, which looks like a Fusilier Lieutenant because it's just a plebe Fusilier, but it's actually a Knight Sepulchre, whatever you want to call it, in Hollow Echo 1. He's got a Crack-Up Renegade over here with +1 armor, I believe it is. This HVT model is actually repping a tech B, a good model to take with Joan because she becomes a 5-point regular order. And this infiltrating TO camo model, which I originally thought was a croc man, is an order sergeant, specialist sergeant, infiltrator. On my side of the table, though, looking over here, so I've taken this big building over here with the Daofei HMG. I'm running the exact same HMG, exact same YuJing list that I played in the very last battle report I posted on my page against Left. It's the same one. So Daofei taking full advantage of infiltration to get up on a building which is surveying most of the battlefield effectively there. His HMG is going to be put to work. We've got the Red Fury Krakot, which picks up climbing plus and extra speed. We've got a baggage bot back here. Guangxi, Shaolin, another Guangxi, the Rushi right here. In the middle, there's a Kanren with mad traps positioned around there. At the back, we've got a TR bot, Flash Pulse bot, Lieutenant, Celestial Guard with Guangxi control device, Shaolin Monk, my HVT is over the side there, Guilang as well, Hacker, and some more Guangxi, but we'll see a better photo of them momentarily. So you can see my back lines here. There's the 3 holo echoes for the Kanren. This guy is actually the real Kanren here, but he's got a couple of mines which represent mad traps for this particular game. Guilang, forward observer over here, ready to move out to push on to the button when it becomes my turn. Shaolin Monk back here. So this was the flashball spot here. This is the TR bot. That's the Lieutenant, and that is the smoke grenade launching Celestial Guard control device. Left-hand flank will show you also HVT on the side. There's a Guangxi here and here. My Hacker hanging out there, and that was the position of the Guilang and the Shaolin there. So you're pretty much up to speed on how the deployment zones look. My reserve model is a hidden deployment ninja on the left-hand flank of the battlefield. I'm placing that down opposite his tag because I want his tag to come out and hopefully end his turn towards my lines. The ninja will be able to dispose of him pretty effectively, as always. So first turn, Pano, he's pushing out with his Krakot Renegade, which just pushes out a bit closer to my side of the board with no eventful arrows at all, and then bringing the tag into play. Now, this is a limited insertion list. He's got 10 orders to spend on this tag. He's going to start running and gunning and using his HMG. So the first model he encounters from the distance, that's him over there, just gets to the flashball spot. Now, I had intended to actually keep the flashball spot a bit further into cover, but I misplaced the model a little bit. It should have really been touching the side of this Celestial Guard just to only provide arrows along this side of the table here, not towards down this direction. But hey, I had to take it. The tag guns me down. I'll lose the flashball spot. That's okay. Coordinating orders, of course, with Joan, only needing to spend a lieutenant's order to start coordinating, and she's moving down here. The mine layer is moving across here, the Krakot's moving around here, and the tag is just moving a bit further across the table. You can see his HVT in the background as well, by the way. That's that. He's also moving his forward observing infiltrating camo guy, the special sergeant, order sergeant, over to the objective on my right. On the other side, this is my left, further advancing his tag, getting into a position where he's going to start advancing in on my Guilang forward observer. Now, he does come into line of sight of my Shaolin Monk, which does try to throw a smoke grenade to dodge, but unsuccessful. The tag destroys him pretty rapidly. And then comes around the corner to discover my Guilang. Now, I know that I'm not going to win a firefight against the Tikkabalang. So what I decided to do instead is to lay a repeater, because the Guilangs come with deployable repeaters. And the benefit of this is that it should help slow down the tag through the rest of the turn. I don't want him spending another 5 orders just chopping me up. So sacrificing the Guilang here to put down a repeater, I wouldn't have really survived if I dodged or shot back at him anyway. So putting down the repeater means that he can just shoot at the Guilang as normal, and then in his next turn, he has to start shooting the repeater and maybe getting hacked or resetting or whatever he's going to do. So that's what happens here. Now, the tag decides to just hit me with a flamethrower instead of firing the HMG, just because he's up against camo and short range and the cover from the wall. But fortunately, I actually managed to pass my armor save against the flamethrower, rolling a very high number, so very fortuitous. Now, in the background, the hacker starts to go to work, because in his next order, he can flamethrower me and the mine. Sorry, not the mine, the repeater. But the Guilang can respond just by putting out another repeater. And the second repeater is only put down on the battlefield and placed at the resolution step of the order after the flamethrower takes effect. So the flamethrower fires out, hits the first repeater and the Guilang, and the Guilang in the meantime is putting out a second repeater, which is going to appear to replace the second one. And in the meantime, the hacker, you can see on the bottom left of this very blurry photo, is hacking him with an Oblivion for free. So my opponent just playing it really dangerously here. Luckily for him, I failed the whip check for the hacking attempt, and he is not possessed this particular round. So we're left with a situation here where the Guilang has managed to place another repeater, which is quite unfortunate for him. So moving around with his Krakot now to attack the Guilang with his dual chain rifles. He's taking the Krakot with the dual chain rifles, although I don't recommend it. All the other profiles come with the chest mine anyway, and the chain rifle's just nowhere near as good as the SMG for a model that is very good at attacking. My opponent moving the Krakot in primarily to trigger the mad traps from the Kanran. Once he's done that, he's going to be able to move in. Now, fortunately for him, he manages to survive the mad traps, so they're both detonated, and now he can move into this position here. Now, my decision here is to try and dodge away from the chain rifle around the corner towards the tag. That is going to mean that the repeater is hit by 2 chain rifle bursts and is destroyed. And we're back to square one with the tag attacking me again. But look, that's 2 orders down already on the Krakot. I'm just trying to wait out the timer here until it's my turn, and he is running out of orders here. So the Guilang does successfully dodge, comes around the corner, the tag attacks him again, the Guilang puts down the last repeater there, and is destroyed by the tag in the meantime. So finally gets rid of the Guilang, but there's still a repeater down on the map, and the tag having to try and deal with that. So lastly, with the tag realizing he's only got a few orders left, doesn't want to leave himself out in enemy territory, he smells the ninja around, he knows he doesn't want to get killed by the ninja, decides to retreat, and in the process has to continue taking hacking attempts. Now, he's survived 2 attempts so far. The 3rd attempt managed to get through, fails the BTS save, and he's possessed, which is a disaster, really, for the Pano turn, really, ending with a tag possessed, meaning I can have my entire turn following this to go and do some work with him. As he was moving his tag back, he's coordinating with the Kamau. Excuse me. Just moving around the other side of this billboard here. So he's starting around here, coming around here. He doesn't realize I'm about to shoot him with the Dao Fei. It's probably good that he's moving because there's a chance he might be able to get behind the wall, but he instead actually positions himself here, which does leave him in shooting line of sight of the Dao Fei, but it's going to allow him to actually fire his sniper rifle down the alley at the Guangxi as well. So that's the general idea. Krakot repositioning, knowing that the tag has been possessed, just repositioning around here. Well, actually, not knowing he's been possessed. This is part of the coordinated order. He's just getting himself ready to defend this area. Note that my ninja is positioned here as well, so if the ninja can move over here, that'll be good, but I may not need to with the tag being possessed as we just saw. Okay, so this is where we end up. After the tag gets possessed, my opponent realizes that the facing of his Krakot is like this. He wanted to basically assault the tag and tie me up in close combat after it got possessed, but didn't have line of sight. I decided to be charitable to him and just pretend that the line of sight was here and say, hey, buddy, why don't we just say that your Krakot had a better position than he did. In friendly games, we often do this. So Krakot finishes the turn by assaulting the tag after he's possessed. So Krakot moves in here, tries to do a point of damage to his own tag through the assault, which he has to do just because he's charging him. It's a bit like War Machine back in the old day where you charge your own model. But this is to stop the tag from basically going and attacking his own troopers. He's just got to contend with the Krakot in close combat now. I can move the ninja in to remove the Krakot, but he'd be able to attack back with Berserk and I'd lose my ninja, so it's not really ideal. Elsewhere, the Knight Sepultura is revealing with his Hollow Echoes coming into Hollow Echo state, and we move on to my turn. So Guangxi moving out instantly gets sniped by the Kamau over here, and I believe the Kamau actually misses the shot. He's got a Contemento guy over there too. This is the raging combat between the tag and the Krakot over here, by the way. Elsewhere on my right-hand side, this Krakot's not moving forward because there's basically a TO marker here and a Knight with a Spitfire over here. But the Shaolin Monk moving around, the other Guangxi moving up, this guy climbing up on top of the barrier so he can move around here, but nobody coming into line of sight just yet. Dalfei stands up. So he can contend with the shot from the knight, potentially get shot by the spec sergeant, but also trying to get shooting at the Camel in distance. I want to destroy the Camel first because that's covering the path the ninja needs to take to get involved in the close combat. So with the Dalfei standing up, I decided to completely ignore the Spitfire from the knight just because I've got camo and cover and I've got plenty of armor. I ignore, of course, the spec sergeant because if he reveals himself, I can just shoot him with my own Krakot. So he doesn't reveal the spec sergeant. The Camel fires back at me, but what happens is that the Dalfei tanks the shot from the knight and destroys the Camel sniper with a raging burst from his HMG, and the day is won from that side of the table. My ninja now revealing and moving across here. Little does he know that this guy actually has the sensor ability, so it gets a plus bonus for discovering. Despite that, doesn't roll high enough to discover the ninja, and the ninja continues moving on over here. Now I realize at this point that if the ninja moves into close combat with the Krakot, I'm going to be trading. So that's not really wonderful. So what I do instead is I put assisted fire on the Rushi, which moves across the line here. And then I'm going to move out with the monk to put a smoke grenade here so that the Rishi doesn't really have to, deal with too bad of a fight against the knight and the order sergeant. The knight, by the way, is behind the truck around here. So first the Rishi moves in and attempts to discover the order sergeant, fails to do that. The knight isn't actually in a particularly good angle to attack with the Rishi, so I decide to ignore him for now. And just move over to the side of the table where I can fire the Spitfire burst at Joan, who managed to deflect a lot of the shots, but fails her guts check, deliberately fails her guts check and pulls back into cover. Her inspirational leadership gives her courage, I believe, same with martial arts. And then after that, we can continue moving with the Rushi over here, potentially crack off a shot at the Contrapacento mine layer further back. And then, lucky last, shoot into combat. Shooting into combat is a great idea because any shots onto the tag is going to damage the tag that currently belongs to me but will belong to my opponent later. So I don't mind if I destroy my own tag because it's realistically my opponent's tag. As for the shots that hit the Krakot, well, that's just going to free up the tag that I currently control, so that's ideal. Now, in this particular case, the tag shrugs off all the Spitfire hits, but the Rushi destroys the Krakot in the process, and then ending up behind these crates so we can set up suppression fire throughout the middle of the table. Ninja now moves through, and I'm thinking of putting the ninja in a position where the ninja ends the turn in base-to-base contact with the tag, and the tags come back around here, just sitting here hiding the ninja, so that in my opponent's turn, if he spends a command token to take control back for the tag, then he's shooting into close combat and might inflict further damage onto his tag if he wants to remove the ninja. If he doesn't spend a command token to take his tag back, well, he can just shoot the ninja out in the open, but he's leaving the tag to me for the entire turn, which isn't really wonderful, is it? So that's what happens here. In his turn, in fact, my turn, I believe I did have a go at firing at the knight with the Dalfei, but didn't get any damage done. It does eventually become his turn, though, and he'll be shooting back at me with the knight. Now, I know that when that actually happens with the Spitfire, nothing particularly great happens. Before it becomes his turn, though, I'm just moving my my TR bot, which starts at this location here, just moving it through to this spot, where he can actually get a very thin line of sight to his order sergeant after the smoke grenade disappears. Once that's done, if he does press the button with his order sergeant, and remember, second game round, we can erase the objectives as agreed at the start of the game, that's going to allow me to, put some pressure on him if he decides to go for the objective, if you know what I'm saying, with the TR bot. All right. Elsewhere, I think everybody is just hanging fine over here. All right, so my opponent, in his second turn, unleashes the might of the Knight Sepulture against the Dalfei, and sadly for him, spends a couple of orders not getting any hits through. In fact, I managed to even win one of the face-to-face rolls with my HMG. He's hanging out here religious, not going back into cover, but eventually the Knight finally strips a wound off the Dalfei, and I'm forced to go prone behind cover there. Or even, I think what actually happened is that I failed an armor save and failed guts, or so passed the armor save and then passed guts. The Knight positioned here moves back to the spot, then moves to the side a little bit, then pulls back. This is a maneuver to ensure that the distance between the Spitfire and Suppression Fire and this spot here is beyond a 24-inch range. Like, if this is 24, I can't hit Suppression Fire, and if he moves out of line of sight first, then into a point where it's 25 away, he can stop me from using Suppression Fire, and that is successful. I fire the single burst out of cover at the Knight, and the Knight shoots back and destroys me. We realized later on that this would have taken him into line of sight of my TR bot, but I missed that completely. We didn't even spot that interaction until later, so that's just a sloppy play there. Rushi is destroyed. Now that enables Joan of Arc to move around here and get line of sight to the Ninja. Now she's okay with firing shock ammunition into the combat. The tag's going to deflect a lot of the shots that land on him, and the Ninja, if it takes even a single shot, probably will die. Now Joan, Blissical 15, +3 for range, -6 for TO camo, -6 for cover. Hitting on some low numbers, but fortunately for her, it does get a couple of shots through, and the Ninja is removed, which does give the tag back. Now, up until this point in the game, I thought things were going pretty well, but this play does really help him a lot. He's killed the Rushi, kills the Ninja, and he's got his tag back. Tag has lost a single wound at this point, but now he's actually looking pretty strong in terms of his heavy infantry pieces and tags being on the field and in play. Elsewhere, his engineer moves forward, fires his combi rifle at the repeater, which is still around, mind you, just to free up his tag to get into a better position. And the tag then moving behind this forklift to gain some cover, just to set up for a future turn. So that's gone pretty well. Now it's YuJing turn 2. I'm moving the Krakow out now because if he reveals his Order Sergeant, I can kill him, and that's going to prevent him from getting any consoles because he still hasn't pressed any buttons yet. I'm going to have a bit of a firefight against the Order Sergeant, the Knight Sepulchre, which might not go too well with me. But I'm just hoping that if I can just survive one face-to-face roll, then I can unleash the the chest mines onto the Order Sergeant here. So in the shootout, the Krakow fires away with his Red Fury, just barely manages to beat the Knight, and the Knight I don't think takes very much damage there, in fact takes none, and we move on to the next order. That was an impetuous order, I might add. The other impetuous order from this, Guangxi moves out, gets shot at by Joan and the tag, so doesn't do particularly well. Now, we've got a Daofei up here, as you can see, and we've also got the Krakow, who's able to move down here into close combat with a long 6-inch move from Climbing Plus, I might add, from the metachemistry. And that will happen after the Daofei basically stands up, has a shootout against the Knight Sepulchre, then spends a short skill discovering the Spec Sergeant and continuing to shoot. So with that interaction, I'm able to discover the Order Sergeant eventually. So the position here, Krakow, the Guangxi also moving around, going dogged, unfortunately, because of the ARO from the Knight. But now what I can do, you can see at the top left, I'm moving the Guangxi into close combat with the Order Sergeant, and with Berserk and a chest mine, I'm able to dispatch him. But the arrow from the Knight comes in, and the Krakow dies. So trading the Knight for the Order Sergeant, it's a worthwhile trade just because the scenario is going okay for me so far, because it looks like I might be able to win on the zones, but if he picks up one or more of the objectives, it's going to be kind of hard to get a lead. Elsewhere, we've also got the Krakow, not the Krakow, the Guangxi having moved in as well. Just to detonate the mine that was planted by our friendly Order Sergeant. Order Sergeant just chose to place a mine as the Krakow was coming in because he knew that he was dead. You know, the Berserk is going to kill him regardless, and the Knight is likely to arrow against the Krakow to take him out. So placing a mine there was the best move. And because I had a Guangxi already in dogged, I decided to move in just to clear the mine. Elsewhere, I had a whole bunch of Group 2 orders, and I've got a Shaolin Monk who can move across the battlefield to attack a Tech B who's behind this building here. Before doing that, though, I did need to take out the Knight Sepulchre, and after a couple of rounds of shooting with the Daofei, did manage to gun him down with the HMG finally. So with the Krakow, not the Krakow, I keep calling things Krakows, the Shaolin Monk moving all the way across the table here, gets into close combat with the Tech B, whacks her with a stick, takes her out, smashes her to the ground, victorious. Lastly, I decided to move out with my my TR bot just to this point here, knowing full well that his tag would just eat me for breakfast and destroy the TR bot. The reason I've done this is that I'm actually not covering anything else on the right-hand side of the board at this point. I've taken out all of his models on the right-hand flank. The TR bot is covering nothing at this point. And he's down to, I think, 4 orders left total. And this is going to be his last turn. If he has to spend an order on his tag killing my TR bot, that only leaves him with 3 orders left to try and take objectives. Now, if he doesn't kill the TR bot, he's got an engineer situated behind this car. And if he just moves over to the objective, he's going to get shot at by this TR bot here. So I'm doing this to sacrifice the TR bot, potentially winning the face-to-face roll against the tag with a crit. Unlikely, though. The best I can achieve is to remove an order from his pool, and that's well worth it to sacrifice the TR bot at this point in the game. Okay, so my opponent is stuck in a position here where he's got his tag. He's, I think, placed a mine earlier on. He's got the TR bot over there, and he has to shoot at the TR bot, so he does so. Pano turn 3, tag opens up on the TR bot, destroys him. There's also a Guangxi miraculously having survived over there too. So he's doing a coordinated order to move out with the tag. The Dao Fei is actually overlooking this part of the battlefield. He's using the tag to shoot at the Dao Fei here, just because if he doesn't, the Dao Fei is actually going to be able to get line of sight from this car in the distance to this objective over here. And as the engineer moves across this particular pathway, Dao Fei is going to get an arrow. So the tag whacks the Dao Fei. I decide to try and stick around, but failing the guts check, going prone, that enables the engineer to move out. So lastly, engineer moving along, snaps off a shot with a pistol from the Guangxi, but the engineer manages to survive that in a coordinated order, moves to the objective, and press the button successfully on the objective, just as Joan closes in as well. So we're in a position where 2 of the 3 zones are controlled by my opponent, and one of the objectives has been captured by my opponent. So for me to win, I really need to, take the zones, and if not capture an objective, get a classified objective. I've only got 1 specialist left. It's my hacker. She's too far away. We'll never be able to actually take that objective back. But my opponent has done one thing, and that is to move the tag from this location over to this location here. And that's going to mean he's not actually going to be contesting my HVT, which is over this side of the board now. So HVT is freed up. His HVT is over this side, on this side of the building. And if I can get this Guangxi over to here, who's miraculously survived, by the way, then I can win by getting that as a tiebreaker. So that is part of the plan here. Dao Fei standing up, and again, taking some risks here. Dao Fei having to gun down the tag. The tag, rather low on health at this point. So Dao Fei blasting him, does take a wound. The tag decides to fail the guts check, go back into cover behind the big building in the middle of the table. Now, this may mean that because nothing's covering that middle section, I may be able to move in with my Canren, because he's got a monofilament weapon, and maybe take out the tag in close combat. So with the Canren moving through, he's got an engineer which can see me initially as I come around from the side of the truck here. But it's combi rifle versus combi rifle, and the Canren manages to win that one. And getting into a position here where he can creep up the side of the wall here and just climb over the objective and come into face-to-face contact with the tag. So Canren losing surprise attack because the hollow hackers have gone now. I decide to do a coordinated order which moves the Guangxi just up to this point here, which is going to force a change facing or reset from the engineer, and then after his arrow is wasted, I'm going to use the cheeky, sleazy move of just moving the Guangxi over to this spot here for the second short skill, getting me into range of his HVT, putting me up a point, which is going to be very important. It's do or die time. Canren has to actually kill the tag here, otherwise I'm not going to be able to get a point for the middle objective, or a bonus point for having more zones than my opponent. The Canren is not a specialist, by the way, otherwise I'd be going for the consoles. Canren moves in, he's close combat 19, he's got a monofilament weapon, MA1, does manage to beat the tag in close combat, swings the mono sword, fails the armor save, off with his head, whoosh, monofilament wins. Jones sitting there though and blasts them with the multi-rifle, and the Canren is destroyed from that. What I can do though is move the monk, who is elsewhere on the table, over to this point here, which is going to contest the middle zone of the table, so that middle block, and the Dao Fei is going to take the block on the right-hand side. So we end the game in a situation where my opponent has picked up one objective, and because he's got one more objective than I do, That is another point. So he's got 2 points. I have got 2 zones plus an additional point for having more zones than him. And I've got the classified objective as well, his HVT. So I win by, I think, a margin of a couple of points. Again, in our customized special scenario. It could use more work. Let us know what you think, guys. Would you play a scenario like this? What improvements would you suggest? I'm going to be designing some of my own custom missions. Remember, this was not a mission of my own. If you want to try one of my custom missions, I strongly recommend Tactical Window, which is the one that you've seen me play a fair bit on this channel. Anyway, YuJing versus Pano. YuJing were the winners this time. Wasn't an easy win. I got lucky in some for those face-to-face rolls. It could easily have gone badly. Probably would have been a draw had it not been for the Canren's heroics. But he got there, guys. Thanks for watching.